Hi, and welcome to the Mastering Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Matt. This episode, we are going to talk about emotion coaching and parenting. This is by far probably the most important thing in some of the clients that I work with and what they want to talk about, just because of my wife's experience and my experience in this field. So I want to introduce to you the 5 steps of emotion coaching by Dr. John Gottman. John Gottman is a researcher of relationships for over 40 years. He got his degree from MIT and started off as a mathematician, and then later on transitioned to become a psychologist. But specifically, he studied relationships and tried to quantify and get research data on relationships. And I observed my wife the other day do something in the backseat of our car with our daughter. And it really struck me. I was really silent driving, and I was just listening and tuning in. And here's what I found. So my daughter, who is 5 years old, she had a breakdown, a tantrum, and for some reason, she was really upset. And she was crying and acting out. She wasn't using her words, and we really encouraged her to use her words, but she did not. And she started really showing that she was visibly upset. And in the car, my wife opened up a conversation to revisit it. Before she even approached the conversation, she, number one, made sure to create an environment of safety. So she leaned into the conversation by first saying, look, Amelia, what I want you to know that mommy will not get upset. And I want you to know that I love you. I love you so much. And just know that what we talk about, mommy won't raise her voice. Mommy won't get upset. That's my promise to you. But I really want to talk about what just happened. She opened up a conversation that created an environment of safety. And so in Gottman's 5 steps of emotion coaching, step number 1 is being aware of your child's emotions. If your child is not feeling safe and you begin to lecture or start a conversation or revisit something that happened, if they're not feeling safe, they are unable to take in and listen to the teaching. Step number 2 in Gottman's 5-step of emotion coaching is recognizing emotion as an opportunity for connection and teaching. So you got to recognize the emotion and naming and labeling the emotion as an opportunity to connect and teach your child. Then in step number 3 is helping your child verbally label the emotion that they're experiencing. Rather than telling them, this step is all about assisting and helping. And I was listening to my wife's conversation with our daughter in the backseat, and here's what she did next. She started to explain what had occurred and what had happened from her point of view. So this is what mommy saw. How do you think you were feeling at that time? She literally posed it in a question to problem solve this together, to understand what emotion our daughter was experiencing in that moment. This allowed for our daughter to start naming that she was upset or mad or sad or angry, whatever it was. And if she had trouble doing it, my wife would ask more questions. Do you think you felt upset? And what upset you? This really encouraged her to use her words. Step number 4 in Gottman's 5-step approach to emotion coaching is communicating empathy and understanding. So again, I heard my wife, after she started to help our daughter verbally label her emotion, She then, instead of quickly jumping to problem solving of this is right, this is wrong, you should have done this, you could have done this, she first stopped to pause and connected with that emotion. So it sounds like you were really upset when Dad and Grandpa weren't playing with you. I could see how that was really upsetting. I could see how you would feel so angry about that. Connecting with that emotion. And then the last step in the 5-step emotion coaching process is setting limits and problem solving collaboratively. So here again, I heard my wife say to our daughter, so what do you think you could have done differently? What choices do you think we could have made in that moment when we feel upset? This allowed both of them to problem solve together. If our daughter said, I don't know, then my wife leaned into a conversation of suggesting some things and playing that out, role playing. If you'd done this, what do you think Grandpa and Dad would have done? Or maybe if you used the words in that moment, what do you think might have happened, as opposed to kicking and screaming? And lastly, something that I really appreciated my wife do in that moment was she separated the problem from the person. And she re-emphasized that. She said to our daughter, she said, Amelia, I want you to know that what you did was not okay. But that doesn't mean you're not okay. You are absolutely 100% beautiful and okay, and I love you. No matter what you do, I love you unconditionally. But sometimes I don't approve of what you do, your behaviors. Doesn't mean I don't approve of you, it just means I don't approve of your behaviors and what you do. So let us be more careful. Let us be more wise in our decisions and also communicate. Help us help you in those moments of when you're really needing us to come through. And let's work together. So this is the 5 steps of emotion coaching from Dr. John Gottman, and an example of what I witnessed my wife do recently with our daughter. Step number 1, be aware of your child's emotions. Got to recognize what they are. Then step number 2, take the opportunity to recognize this emotion as a way of connecting or teaching. Step number 3, help your child verbally label the emotion. Rather than you labeling it for them, allow yourself to ask more questions and have the child label the emotions themselves. This can start to enhance their emotional vocabulary at a young age. Number 4, communicate empathy and understanding. As soon as your child starts to label their own emotion, empathize and connect with that emotion. Understand where they're coming from. Rather than quickly problem solving and jumping to solutions and fixing the problem, connect with that emotion with empathy and understanding. And finally, step number 5, set limits and problem solve together collaboratively. So this is the 5 steps of the emotion coaching process. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in to the Mastering Mindset podcast with Dr. Matt. Mastering Mindset is a training platform where we continue to train individuals and teams on how to master their thoughts, their emotions, and their behaviors in life so that they can ultimately master their performance. Stay tuned for more.